Hi, I'm Scott Wrighton. I serve as Decatur City Manager, and every week you can click on this link or this video or wherever you might see it to learn a little bit more about what's going on with your Decatur City government. It's already been covered in the press quite a bit, but I certainly want to continue to celebrate the announcement recently made by the Tillmaook company based in Western Oregon. They're going to be making their first production facility, building a new production facility here in Decatur, Illinois, the first new production facility owned by them outside the state of Oregon. Now, there's been a lot in the news about it and videos about what sort of products they produce and their company philosophy and all of that, how much they're going to be investing and how many jobs that they're creating. So I'm not going to revisit those two things. I want to talk about two different aspects of the Tillamook project. The first is that besides adding investment in jobs, it's going to be a project that really improves the streetscape of a section of Martin Luther King, which is, quite frankly, not one of the prettiest parts of Decatur. South of and east of Crossing and south of the Wabash Crossing housing project is where this is at. It's sort of after you cross the railroad tracks going north on Martin Luther King over on the right side. All of those properties, once you're past the Walrus manufacturing building, which hopefully will be coming down soon, the rest of the way up to the Wabash Crossing project is the area of our focus, where we hope to be working with Tillamook to not only help them with their investment, but also to clear additional properties and really change the face of that section of that neighborhood. So it really helps us meet some neighborhood improvement objectives as well, and take an area that has been largely derelict and had buildings that had been built in the early 20th century that had long ago become no longer useful, and repurposing these properties in ways that fit that neighborhood and, as it turns out, fit the long-term goals of Tillamook as well. The second aspect about the Tillamook project is that it's a piece of our larger economic development strategy. The future for Decatur looks good for attracting new businesses, but it's not going to be the 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000 type job recruitment. It's going to be 100 jobs here, 150 here, 200 here, 50 here, which means that we're always working on the next project, but it also means that the employment, the investment, the economic base of the community is more diversified with lots of different companies, but many of them practicing what we call advanced manufacturing. This isn't your grandfather's manufacturing plant. These are newer, more technologically advanced, cleaner manufacturing sites, and so the face of manufacturing in Decatur is changing. It's been changing for several years, but that's becoming more apparent with some of these smaller industries like InnovaFeed and Tillamook and others yet to come that will be locating in Decatur. We look forward to sharing with you some more information about that in the years ahead as these projects proceed. In all of the other busyness that was on the City Council's March 20th agenda, I think one of the projects that the City Council acted on that maybe didn't get quite as much attention has to do with a property that the City Council authorized us to purchase up on North Jasper Street. There's a old school building there, which for several years has been known as We Folks. It was operated as a daycare facility up until the pandemic. And because of COVID, the facility was never reopened. But the availability of childcare is key, not only for neighborhood revitalization, but also for workforce development. If parents don't have reliable childcare for their children, then they sometimes can't be in the workforce or have to take themselves out of the workforce. So we want to be able to make sure that these people have opportunities to have gainful employment and to advance themselves, and one of the best ways to do that is to make sure that there's reliable child care. And here is a facility right in the center of the urban core. Now, I want to assure you that the City of Decatur has no intention nor any desire to be directly in the child care business. And so we're acquiring the facility, and at the same time, and in fact at the same meeting, the Mayor and City Council executed an agreement with a private party then who will operate the facility. So the city has acquired the building and is going to be turning it over with certain conditions for the next several years for them to operate the business there. They'll be making the improvements to the building. They'll be managing all of those business costs, so that we're not involved in that. But in this, by providing a piece of real estate really perfectly laid out and designed for childcare, then we're taking care of this need right here in the urban core. And I think that's a real success, and it's one more step, a progressive step, in the Mayor and City Council's long-term objectives, not only for workforce development, but also for neighborhood revitalization. Now, one of the other topics that they covered at the City Council meeting, probably not one that's quite as popular, is the fact that we have to make some changes to our water and sewer rates. In 2022, the inflation rate, because of the federal government's fiscal and energy policies, the inflation was crazy and was higher than it had been in 40-some years, and it was at 8.5%. And in the midst of that, the City Council said we can't pass on an 8.5% rate hike to our customers. So for 1 year only, we're only going to increase it by 2.5%. Sadly, our costs of chemicals, of pipes, of manholes, of all the other expenses of maintaining, expanding, and investing in our water and sewer systems aren't increasing by the inflation rate. They're increasing at rates 2 and 3 times the inflation rate that you and I face when we go into the grocery store. So the question that the City Council has is, okay, how do we respond to that? We have to make some adjustments in those rates, because otherwise we won't be able to make the continued investment in the water and sewer systems that are so critical to our economic development. But we also want to protect our consumers, our ratepayers, from crazy hikes. At the last City Council meeting, they made an adjustment in the sewer rates. They tabled action on water rates until the next City Council meeting because they had some additional questions. But at the end of the day, that's really what the Council's decision-making process is about with regard to rates, is how do we find that middle path. So stay tuned and I'll give you some more information about that. Thanks for tuning in to this video. I look forward to sharing more information about what's going on with your city government at the next video segment.